Hey everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you are new. And this is the second time that I'm shooting this video review, this 1980 horror movie review, because I did one a little while ago. It ended up being over 20 minutes long, and I was just a mess. I was talking over myself. I'm not sure what happened, but I just couldn't put that out there as acceptable. So um, I'm shooting this for a second time, and I'm going to try to make this a lot quicker and more efficient. I don't like 20-minute reviews. I think 10 to 15 minutes is the sweet spot. So anyway, with that being said, of course, this is the second movie we're going to take a look at in my overall 1980s horror movie series, and specifically the second one for the first year, 1980 horror movie review here, and that is for my Severin collection. Don't Go in the House, and I have the Severin version from I believe 2021, the slipcover here. I'll say this picture is more representative of the movie, but I like this artwork better. You know, with the eyes over the house, and Don't Go in the House, and it all just kind of works. But yeah, let's talk about Don't Go in the House from 1980. So, oh, I gotta grab my notes. I already put them away because I thought I was done, and then I decided that I wasn't. So sorry about that. But Don't Go in the House is a 1980 American slasher film written and directed by Joseph Ellison, written by Ellen Hamill and Joe Maysfield. The plot follows a disturbed man who, after suffering an abusive childhood in which his mother punished him with burning, becomes a pyromaniac and a serial killer. He kidnaps and burns alive any woman who resembles his mother. So that's sort of the premise. So Danny Kohler is a withdrawn man in his 30s who's obsessed with fire. His fixation stems back to his childhood, during which his sadistic, abusive mother would burn him on their gas stove to burn the evil out of him. After returning from the factory job one evening to his dilapidated Victorian home he shares with his now elderly mother, Donnie finds that she has died in her upstairs bedroom. This spurs mixed emotions. Initially of excitement as he's finally freed from her, but alternatively fear as he begins to hear this disembodied voice in the house that seems to be hers. The following day, Donnie calls in sick to work and spends the day lining the upstairs room with aluminum, effectively fireproofing it. That night, he visits a flower shop right before its closing and is sold flowers for his mother by a florist named Kathy Jordan. Outside the shop, Donnie witnesses Kathy miss her bus before being harangued by a group of men. When Donnie offers her a ride, she accepts. Donnie talks Kathy into meeting his mother, but she grows nervous once inside and attempts to call for a taxi before Donnie incapacitates her. So that's sort of the setup and the premise for Don't Go in the House. As far as the cast goes, we have Charlie Bonnet as Ben. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan Grimaldi is Donald Donnie Kohler, the main character. Charlie Bonnet is Ben. Robert Oss is Bobby Tuttle. Joanna Bruchet is Kathy Jordan. Ruth Dardick is Mrs. Kohler. Ralph Bowman is Father Garrity, and Bill Rickey is Vito. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the 1980 movie Don't Go in the House. Um, I will say I have watched this movie before. I actually picked it up at a horror con last year from the Severin table. And I think I watched it like a day or two after I got home. I popped it in and watched it. So this was the second time watching it. Um, I had seen it before, but I was definitely due for a rewatch on it anyway. Um, and I have to say, I enjoy this movie. It's very well done. I shouldn't say I enjoy this movie. I appreciate this movie, is a better way to say it. If I enjoyed it, I would say I'm a little bit sick in the head myself. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get into my review. As far as the pros go, or the things I liked about the movie, it's a really great overall psychological slasher movie. I think that's how I would describe this movie, psychological slasher. But it works because of the effects, especially for the time and the budget, the performances, especially by Dan Grimaldi, and the tone and atmosphere that's created in this movie. I really like the setting throughout the movie, especially the scenes that take place within the house, Donnie's house. It's a Victorian house, so it's really big. It has that Victorian, like on the first floor when you first come into it, it has a very Victorian look, and everything's decorated nicely. You got the fireplace and everything. But then in the rest of the house, there's a decrepit, creepy look to it where the walls, the paint is peeling off the walls and the walls damaged, and it's just a very messed up house. The kind of house you wouldn't want to find yourself in alone at night frankly. So the setting of the house really works to help establish that creepy atmospheric tone and dark tone of the movie. It is almost another character in the movie, frankly. To me, though, the best part of this movie is the main character and his descent into madness of Donnie. It's a slow descent into murder and madness. Well, we also get a backstory for this character of what created of what ends up taking him from where he starts to where he ends. He basically becomes a monster towards the end of this movie, and it's not done overnight. It's not done all at once. And I thought they did a really good job of kind of showing the descent into madness. And I think that's the best part of this movie. Um, it really puts the viewer into his shoes in a very unsettling and disturbing way as well. So kudos to the movie for that. Obviously, the performance of Dan Grimaldi as Donnie is fantastic. He gives a really strong and believable performance as the lead character in this movie, as he goes from being just kind of confused and trying to do the right thing, trying to figure it all out, to becoming a full-on nut job and going mad, basically a mad murderer. And he never really misses. Dan Grimaldi never misses a beat portraying this character throughout the movie, to the point where it's kind of frightening. I mean, if you didn't know this guy was an actor, you'd think that he does such a good job. You think he might be a real psychopath, and yeah, that's a credit to his performance. Um, and for this kind of movie, you need that kind of performance because there's only like three or four characters in this movie. So Dan Grimaldi has to carry this movie, and he does. But if you don't have that kind of strong performance by the main lead in a movie like this, the movie's going to crumble under the performance of a lesser performance, I should say. So hats off to Dan Grimaldi. Definitely one of the best things about this movie is his performance. Um, some of the scenes towards the end of the movie are really effective, particularly with the burnt corpses and the effects of them moving and coming to life. I found those to be the most creepy and effective and unsettling in the entire movie. And they, I guess, if I had a favorite part of the movie, a movie that's hard to have a favorite part to, it would probably be those because that's more of the, I don't want to say that more of fun horror, but it's more just very effective horror, very creepy. Um, when Donnie's confronted by all these burnt corpses at the end, including one of his mother, and he ends up getting pulled into the fire that he creates with his blowtorch. That's probably the best part of the whole movie. For me, that was the part because not only does it wrap up the story and this character really well, but in a in a permanent way. I also thought it was effective because of the effects and because of the imagery of those burnt corpses and everything. It's just very well done. If you've ever watched a horror movie or any kind of movie where you have like things come alive that aren't supposed to be coming alive, whether it's from a supernatural standpoint or this guy just going off his rocker and losing his marble standpoint. We're not really sure in this movie, although I do think personally that it's more the latter than the former. It's just very effective. And then finally, I think the kills are done effectively. Not that there's a lot of kills in this movie, and there's not a lot of blood and gore in this movie. So if you're just a flat out gorehound that wants to see intestines spilled, this movie's probably not going to be for you. Um, that they have one disturbing on-screen violent kill, basically, but it's with gasoline and a blowtorch, so they only needed one in this movie. Would be my argument, and I don't know if they decided to just have one on-screen kill because of the budget, because of monetary constraints, or if they were smart enough, in my opinion, and they did it from an effective standpoint to realize by showing it once, we allow the audience to then imagine it the other kills where they just show the burnt, charred corpse at the end after the kill has taken place. However, it was very effectively done, whether on purpose or by accident for monetary reasons. But showing the very first kill, as brutal as it is on screen, as well as the suspense building up to it. I thought they do a good job with when we have this character of Kathy Jordan who comes from her flower shop into his house. There's a nice build up, and they take their time with it. Both the build up to when she gets tied up, and she's completely naked when she comes to and finds herself tied up, to the actual like pouring the gasoline and using the blowtorch on her. They don't rush it. You get to see everything here. I shouldn't say you get to see, but you do see everything. So I just thought the kill how they handled the kills in this movie was very effective. By not showing that same kill again and again, but for other victims that will end up meeting their demise the same way. It allows the viewers, as I said, to create the kills in their heads with the post burn imagery as well as what we've already seen from the first kill on screen. Hopefully that makes sense what I'm trying to say there. So those are my pros for Don't Go at the House. As far as cons go, this is more of a warning than an actual con of the movie, but the one screen that we get, the one on screen kill is brutal. It's brutal, it's violent, it isn't fun to watch. Um, it's very violent and disturbing, both in the manner of how it's done with the gasoline and the blowtorch, but also I thought the sounds were effective, especially with the pleas from this victim. Her screams, her pleas, um, the shock that's involved there. I just thought that it was very well done. It didn't come across like an overacting performance or anything. It came across like it might really come across like somebody that's in this situation, as horrifying as that is. And that just adds to the horrificness of this whole scene and this kill. So be forewarned about that. That if you're, especially if you're somebody that's sensitive to fire or people being set on fire or anything like that, this might be a bit of a trigger warning for that, I would say. So the movie doesn't do anything wrong with it. In fact, they do way too much right with it because it just feels so real and effective in that regard. Another con I have is it does borrow from a lot of other movies, Psycho, Maniac, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Although you can't really say it borrows from that movie because that movie came out in 1987 and this movie came out in 1980, was made in 79. I don't even know how much you can say that it stole from Maniac because I don't know what movie was shot first. But certainly Psycho. So I guess my point here is this isn't a completely original, mind blowing concept. Although I think they do really well with taking the concept from other movies, borrowing from other movies to put it nicely, but still making it their own in an effective way. And then my final con would be, and this is the biggest one for me, and this is probably more of a personal one, but it's not a highly rewatchable movie. Given the content and the disturbing nature of the movie, um, it's just not one that I'm going to grab off the shelf very often. Whether I'm in the mood for a psychological thriller, psychological horror, psychological slasher, or just a straight up slasher movie, I don't foresee myself grabbing this one before like 10 or 12 other movies. It's just not a fun movie to really watch. It can be entertaining. It's very effectively done. So I'm not taking anything away from the movie. It's just that for me, from a personal standpoint, I already know that this is going to be like a every other year kind of watch for me. So I have to knock it a bit for that, just from a rewatchability standpoint. But that being said, I'm going to give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. I almost give it an 8 because there are a lot more pros and cons, but the rewatchability factor, it's not a pleasant experience for me, so I had to dock it half a point for that. But it is a movie that I would recommend as long as you're familiar going into it with those warnings and knowing that there's on-screen fire violence. Um, but 7.5 out of 10 because all the technical stuff, especially on a lower budget from the late 70s, are very well done. The creepy scenes with the corpses are very well done. Very good practical makeup effects on the corpses. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just a very well done, very well made, well acted movie, especially by Dan Grimaldi. So go ahead and comment down below if you guys have seen Don't Go in the House from 1980. Put your comments down below if you like it. If you don't like it, why not? Please like this video, hit the little notification bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series. And be sure to subscribe to my channel as well so you don't miss any of my great horror content. Not only the rest of this 1980 horror movie series for the next couple months here, but also all the great horror content I have coming after that and into next year. So, um, oh, I did want to mention too before I let you go, the Severed version is a great one to get because there's a lot of special features. First of all, you have you actually have three different cuts of the movie. You have the integral cut, which I think is like a director's cut. You have the original theatrical cut, which is what I've watched both times that I've watched it so far. And then you also have the um, the TV cut of it, which I guess is a longer version where they extend scenes here and there. Although I'm guessing it's going to be less, it's going to be less violent, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm just pointing that out. And then there's a lot of commentaries on here. There's some documentaries. Of course, you got your standard you have your standard like trailers and stuff for all other don't movies. This is one of about 50 don't movies, by the way. But yeah, just kind of wanted to point that out. I don't know how well you guys can see the special features, but this version, this Severin edition has a ton of them. So I checked out a couple, but not a lot. I have way more to check out. So great, well done movie. Great version by Severin put out. Not an easy watch. 7.5 out of 10. With that being said, I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for watching this review video. I hope you're enjoying this series. And as always, stay scared. Bye.